Predacons. From the 5 Decepticons, who combined into Predaking to the Beast Wars faction, descended from the Decepticons 3 centuries later, the Predacon name has meant one thing across every continuity: dangerous, complicated, and almost always fighting each other as much as they fight the enemy. Here are the most significant Predacon members across the franchise's history, ranked from the most quietly intimidating to the one who gave the faction everything it is. Let's break this down. Headstrong. He is the most appropriately named Predacon on the team. The specific quality that makes Headstrong the G1 Predacon team's most distinct individual personality is that he is so completely unwilling to change his position on any subject, tactical, philosophical, or practical, that he will maintain it even when presented with direct evidence that he is wrong. He transforms into a rhinoceros, which the franchise treats as the most literal possible expression of a character philosophy. His combat role on the team is structural. He forms one of Predaking's legs, providing the physical foundation for the combiner's massive lower body, which is appropriate for a character whose defining quality is being impossible to redirect once in motion. The specific moment that best illustrates Headstrong's function within the team came when Rodimus Prime suggested the Predacons and Autobots team up during the Quintessence Dream Machine incident. Headstrong and Tantrum were vehemently against the idea, while Rampage quietly went along with it, which means that the Predacons' inability to cooperate even with people trying to help them was specifically Headstrong's contribution. He forms a leg. He holds his ground. He disagrees. That is the complete inventory of what Headstrong does, and it has never failed to be useful. But if the Rhino, who refuses to change course regardless of circumstances, ranks 10th, wait until you learn about the one who cannot control the thing that drives him. Tantrum. He is described as a killing machine whose bouts of manic fury are not triggered by anything specific and simply happen at complete random, leaving him barely coherent and targeting all comers indiscriminately. He transforms into a bull, which is once again the most literal possible expression of the character's psychology. Where a Headstrong's stubbornness is at least directional, he locks in and does not move. Tantrum's rage has no fixed target and produces a Predacon who is genuinely dangerous to stand near, regardless of faction. The specific battlefield dynamic this creates is documented in how the Predacons handle coordinated attack assignments. The others generally had specific roles, while the operational planning around Tantrum appears to have been primarily concerned with pointing him in the right direction before the charge began, and hoping the momentum carried through. After the war, when the remaining 4 Predacons found themselves stranded on Earth without Razorclaw and formed an alliance with the Chinese government as hired protection, it was Rampage, not Tantrum, who led the group, which suggests that even the other Predacons recognized that putting Tantrum in charge of anything requiring sustained decision-making was inadvisable. He forms Predaking's other leg. He is dangerous by proximity. That is enough. But if the bull, who cannot aim his own fury, ranks 9th, wait until you learn about the one who decided the sky was his territory and treated it as personal property. Divebomb. He has a grievance. The specific backstory that gives Divebomb the G1 Predacon team's most personal motivation is this. Before the Predacons were deployed as Decepticon heavy units, Divebomb encountered the Autobot-Dinobot swoop during a combat engagement and, in the resulting battle, took his name, forcing Swoop to operate under a different designation for a period. This is documented as the source of Divebomb's sustained contempt for the Dinobots, specifically a territorial dispute that the franchise used to give him a character relationship unavailable to the other Predacons. He transforms into an eagle and fills the aerial attack role in the team, conducting reconnaissance and softening targets before the ground-based Predacons engage. When Thunderwing's reactivation on Cybertron required a response in the IDW continuity, it was Divebomb and Headstrong whom Razorclaw sent to the surface as the Advance Assault team, the closest Divebomb gets to a moment of franchise consequence, fighting alongside Autobots in a temporary alliance against something worse than either faction. He is the Predacon with the most specifically personal reason to dislike a specific Autobot, and he forms Predaking's gun arm, aerial superiority, and old grudges. But if the Eagle, with a territorial attitude toward his own name, ranks 8th, wait until you learn about the Beast Wars Predacon who came closest to getting what he wanted. Terasaur. He almost did it. The specific moment in Beast Wars Season 1's Power Surge episode that represents the closest Terasaur ever came to his stated ambition was this. He discovered a cache of Super Energon on a flying mountain, absorbed it, defeated Megatron in combat with the boosted power, declared himself the new leader of the Predacons, left Tarantulas in charge of the base, and flew back to the mountain to refuel. None of the other Predacons paid attention to any of the commands he made while he was leader. By the time he returned, Optimus Primal and Rattrap had destroyed the mountain and Megatron had been repaired and was very angry. Terasaur's only coherent response at this point was to squawk "help" while turning a ghostly white. He is the franchise's most persistently unsuccessful schemer, a pteranodon who spent 2 seasons conspiring to overthrow Megatron, achieved it briefly in a context that immediately evaporated, and was humiliated by every subsequent attempt. His death came at the end of Season 1. He and Scorponok fell into a lava pit during the Quantum Surge, and unlike the characters the franchise chose to give transmetal forms, Terasaur did not receive one. He died as he had lived, in the process of a plan going wrong. But if the Pteranodon, who almost led the Predacons, and then immediately didn't rank 7th, wait until you learn about the one who served loyally and received lava as his reward. Scorponok. He was the only Predacon Megatron trusted with secrets. The specific dynamic that makes Scorponok the Beast Wars Predacon team's most uncomplicated character, and the most tragic one, is this. Where Terasaur schemed, Blackarachnia plotted, and Tarantulas operated according to an entirely separate agenda, Scorponok served. Megatron regularly consulted Scorponok privately before major operations, whispered instructions to him out of other Predacons' hearing, and relied on him specifically to monitor potentially treacherous subordinates. When Starscream possessed Waspinator's body and briefly infiltrated the Predacons, it was Scorponok whom Megatron trusted to watch him. When Blackarachnia was sent to claim the Flying Island, Scorponok was dispatched secretly to ensure she did not use its power against Megatron, and correctly anticipated she would try. His death is documented with a specific unfairness the franchise never addresses. He and Terasaur fell into a lava pit during the Season 1 finale's Quantum Surge event, boiled alive while better characterized Predacons survived to receive upgraded transmetal bodies. He was loyal, competent, and killed by geology. The franchise community's relationship with Scorponok is defined by the specific unfairness of a character who did everything right by Megatron standards and still died as a casualty of someone else's power source explosion. But if the loyal Scorpion who deserved better than lava ranks 6th, wait until you learn about the one who served a different royalty entirely. Inferno. He is not a soldier. He is a worker drone, and he will not acknowledge otherwise. The specific origin that makes Inferno the Beast Wars Predacon team's most distinctive personality is this. He was reprogrammed from a maximal protoform by Tarantulas, but the reprogramming was not clean. Instead of producing a standard Predacon, it produced a Predacon who took his Fire Ant Beast mode so completely to heart that he organized his entire psychology around the social structure of an ant colony. He refers to Megatron as the royalty. He refers to the Predacon base as the colony. He considers himself a worker drone fulfilling his function in service of the colony, which means that his loyalty to Megatron is not the calculated loyalty of a subordinate weighing options, but the absolute, a non-negotiable loyalty of an organism that cannot conceive of any other purpose. The specific contrast this created with the rest of the Predacon team was total. While Terasaur schemed, Blackarachnia plotted, and Tarantulas ran his own agenda entirely, Inferno would throw himself at any threat the royalty identified without hesitation, evaluation, or self-preservation instinct. He was also extremely flammable and on fire a significant percentage of the time. The franchise community's affection for Inferno is rooted in the specific comedy of a character whose fanaticism is genuine rather than performed. He is not pretending to be devoted to the colony. He simply is. But if the Fire Ant who served the royalty with absolute sincerity ranks 5th, wait until you learn about the Predacon who survived everything, the Waspinator. He is still out there. The specific paradox that made Waspinator one of the franchise's most beloved characters across the entire Beast Wars run is this. He was the team's designated expendable, Megatron's most explicitly disposable unit, a Predacon whose primary narrative function was to be destroyed by every conceivable means and then require reassembly. And the franchise community fell entirely in love with him because of it. His speech patterns, involving third-person self-reference and heavy Z-inflected pronunciation, combined with his habit of correctly identifying his situation and trying to avoid it anyway, produced a character whose awareness of his own lot did nothing to change it. His end-of-series fate is the franchise's most satisfying joke. At the end of Beast Wars, while every other Predacon was either dead or captured, Waspinator, who had been destroyed more times than any other character in the series, had stayed behind on prehistoric Earth and was being worshipped as a god by the proto-humans. The Waspinator, who had spent 3 seasons being shot, blown up, crushed, and rebuilt while lamenting his place in the universe, ended up in the only position the franchise could have given him that was genuinely funny and somehow earned. He's still out there, in prehistoric Earth, revered. But if the perpetual victim who ended up worshipped ranks 4th, wait until you learn about the maximal protoform who became the most compelling Predacon in the franchise. Blackarachnia. She was always supposed to be a maximal. The specific circumstance of her creation was this. When the Predacons captured a stasis pod, Tarantulas reprogrammed the protoform inside with a Predacon shell program and gave it a spider beast mode, producing a Predacon who had a maximal spark underneath the programming that was trying to suppress it. Her arc across Beast Wars 3 seasons is the franchise's most sustained examination of what identity means when your faction alignment was imposed on you by someone else. Blackarachnia spent the series operating as a Predacon because she was created as one, scheming independently because her intelligence exceeded the patience required for loyalty, falling in love with the maximal Silverbolt. Because his chivalry was the first genuine thing she encountered. And gradually moving toward the faction her spark had originally been designated for. Her Transmetal 2 upgrade and her eventual full defection to the Maximals was achieved through Silverbolt's specific belief in her over her own objections. The Transformers animated continuity reinvented Blackarachnia entirely, giving her a separate backstory as Elita 1, an Autobot who was partially converted to Predacon biology and blamed Optimus Prime for it, producing the franchise's most explicitly tragic version of the character. Across both major continuities, Blackarachnia is the Predacon the franchise used to ask whether the faction you were built for is the faction you have to be. But if the maximal protoform who became a Predacon, who chose to become a maximal again, ranks 3rd, wait until you learn about the one who was playing a different game entirely. Tarantulas. He was not a Predacon. He was not loyal to Megatron. He was not even primarily loyal to the Tripredacus Council who had infiltrated him into Megatron's crew. The specific revelation that the Beast Wars cartoon delivered about its most treacherous recurring character was this. Tarantulas was an agent of the Tripredacus Council placed on Megatron's team to report on and eventually sabotage him, while simultaneously running his own agenda that superseded his council loyalty, which was in turn superseded by what the series eventually revealed, that he was a descendant of Unicron, and his specific endgame was escaping prehistoric Earth before the Vok destroyed it and eventually making contact with Unicron himself. The layers were precise. Megatron thought he was a subordinate. The Council thought he was their mole. Neither was correct. Tarantulas was operating on a third agenda that neither organization fully understood. His specific contribution to the Predacon operation included creating Blackarachnia, building an escape ship from a converted stasis pod, infecting Rhinox with an Energon discharge virus, and spending the series in a laboratory beneath the Predacon base, running experiments no one authorized him to run. He was killed when the Vok entities he was trying to control emerged from Tigerhawk and passed through him, destroying all 3. He died with his machine. In a franchise full of characters with ambiguous loyalties, Tarantulas is the one who had no loyalty at all. But if the triple agent who answered only to himself and Unicron ranks 2nd, wait until you learn about the one who founded the name. Razorclaw. He is the name that became a faction. The G1 Razorclaw was the commander of the 5-bot Predacon team, a lion-transforming Decepticon heavy assault unit who formed the torso and cognitive center of Predaking, led his team with a specific kind of ruthless patience that distinguished him from the rage of Tantrum and the stubbornness of Headstrong, and served Megatron with a loyalty documented in the EDW continuity as absolute to the point of willingness to destroy Cybertron, rather than defy his leader's orders. What happened after the Great War is where his franchise significance reaches its full weight. Razorclaw took the Predacon team name and founded the Predacon faction, the successor to the Decepticons, the organization that fought the Maximals, the political entity that eventually became the Tripredacus Council's vehicle for continued Decepticon ambition under a new brand. The specific chain runs from Razorclaw's 5-bot team in G1 to the entire Beast Wars Predacon civilization, a faction with millions of members and its own governmental structure, because one Decepticon commander decided after losing a war that the name was worth continuing. The faction's founding was Razorclaw's specific act of will following the Decepticons' defeat. He did not accept the loss. He renamed it and kept fighting. That is what every Predacon in the franchise's history is doing.